This is long, long, long. I'm sorry, I've sort of written a novel here. I wanted to post this in a relationship advice group, but the subject matter isn't allowed. My ex-husband and I were married for 10 years, although the last 2 were spent in variations of separation. We've been divorced for roughly a year. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 5. I'm pregnant with our 4th baby. I don't know if we'll actually be parents to 4 kids or not. I'm so conflicted. We are so conflicted. There was no abuse or cheating in our marriage, although he did sleep with somebody else during our separation. There are a variety of other reasons why we ultimately got divorced. After the initial feelings of failure and heartache, and there was an immense amount of heartache on my end despite being the one who filed for divorce, we were able to get along pretty well. It became platonic so quickly, and it's like when we removed the romantic and married relationship from the equation, things got so much better. We split time with our kids 50-50. That's really hard for me because being a mom is such a huge part of my identity that I still sometimes struggle to know what to do with myself during my time with the kids. Ultimately, I'm happy that he's a loving, involved father, and I'm glad that they do spend half their time with him, even if I still sometimes cry over not being with them all the time. We still do things together as a family sometimes. We sit together at our kids' activities and things like that. He has a girlfriend now. She seems nice. He met her not long after our divorce was finalized. It hurt. I cried way too much over it. He waited over 6 months to introduce her to our kids, which I was thankful for. My kids like her. Our youngest child was unexpectedly admitted to the hospital not long ago. He had surgery. In the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor surgery, and he's absolutely fine now, but this is my baby, and he had to spend multiple nights in the hospital, so this was a big deal for me. My ex-husband was there the entire time, being a great dad and a supportive partner to me as I worried over every little thing. We spent all those nights in the hospital together, and I remembered why I married him. He was always able to be a strong, level-headed rock for me. He was this safe person who I knew would take care of everything and protect me. When we were in the hospital, he told me that I'm still the most important woman in his life. When our son was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house. My baby was home safe, and our other 2 children were excited to be home after staying with my husband's sister for several nights. We were all together at home like a family again. That night, after our kids were in bed, we had sex. I hadn't been hoping for it or planning it. It was just like, as soon as the kids were tucked away in their rooms, we were having this intensely passionate, needy, amazing sex that we shouldn't have been having. We went to sleep in my bed, and at some point in the middle of the night, we had sex again. The next morning, we both decided our emotions about the whole situation with our son just got the better of us. We said we didn't regret sleeping together, but that's all it was, and we were just going to go back to our normal divorced lives. We wouldn't make it awkward, just move on. Then I found out I was pregnant. We didn't use a condom. I don't even have condoms in my house anymore. I'm not on birth control. I haven't been since we divorced. I haven't needed it since I haven't had the time or interest to start dating again. I really wanted to be single for a while. I know I was ovulating when we slept together, which was probably a contributing subconscious factor as to why it happened. My body sees him as a good dad to our kids, and it wants another. My cycle is like clockwork, and we've always conceived on the first try every time we've tried to get pregnant. Our first kid was not even a try, it was a 2 weeks before your wedding you find out you're pregnant and spend your honeymoon with morning sickness surprise. So now I'm about 8 weeks pregnant. I've known for about a week. I just told him this past weekend. I didn't know if I would tell him at all. I realize now that I only told him in hopes that he'd tell me what to do and figure the situation out for me. Only he didn't. I know it makes no sense to have a baby with someone I chose to divorce. I don't need a 4th child. Why can't I let go of this, though? Update 1. I posted about a week ago. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for about a year. We have 3 kids, ranging from 10 to 5 years old. We have gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends, can do things with our kids, and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spending several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, or former family home, at our son's request. He was just supposed to spend a few hours there, help our son get settled, then go home. However, I guess all of the emotions and being together as a family in our former shared home got the better of us, and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now, I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control, was on it until after our divorce was finalized, but have been intentionally remaining single for a while and not involved with men in any way, so was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially, we were undecided about what to do, but as of last weekend, we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me, definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so even if I were to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'd be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, but I'm not even at the point of wanting to find somebody new yet. We're not getting back together for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible for all of our children to attempt to get back together right now because of this. Chances are higher that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do what has to be done to take care of the baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing so great right now, and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a two-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby will just see this as normal, right? The next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our oldest won't take the news well. She also knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Update 2. Several people have asked me for an update on my situation. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. My other posts are on my profile. A recap is that we were married for 10 years, divorced for almost 1.5 years now, and have 3 kids together. We slept together twice during a stressful family time, and I ended up pregnant. We've since admitted that we are both still in love with each other but have not actually declared that we're back together, mainly for the sake of our kids. I last posted toward the end of January. I'm 28 weeks pregnant. We're having a little girl. As far as the pregnancy goes, it's been like a textbook pregnancy, and so I feel pretty good, just more tired than I ever remember being during pregnancy before. My husband and I continue to live separately and share custody of our kids. We each have them 50% of the time. They're all aware that we're having a baby, and none of them seem to be deeply confused or emotionally damaged by their divorced parents having a baby together. We explained it in an age-appropriate way. Our oldest child was more grossed out that her parents had sex than anything else, since she now understands what sex is and how babies are made. We've been involving her quite a bit, and she's excited now. I even took her to one of my appointments. She's excited to have a baby sister, and she understands that mom and dad love her and her siblings, that we love this new baby, and that we love each other as people and as parenting partners without actually being together as a married couple in one house. Meanwhile, my husband and I have started to attend couples counseling. We tried marriage counseling when we were separated before we divorced, but I think we were both already pretty mentally done, so counseling didn't do much for us then. I think we're getting way more out of it now because we're actually invested in it and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes I feel great after a session, and at other times I feel not so great and am reminded of the reasons why we divorced. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us, no matter what happens with our relationship. We've been sleeping together for the last few months. We already agreed that we wouldn't be seeing other people at this time. I wouldn't be staying while pregnant anyway, and it's not as if I'll even have time with 3 kids and a newborn. We agreed that we would not open ourselves to being with other people while we were working on our relationship and before that conversation was had between us. We are carrying on just as we have since our divorce, as far as our kids are concerned. Dad doesn't spend the night at our house. We do things together as a family sometimes, but we were doing that even before anything was rekindled between us. We're not acting as a couple when we're together as a family. We're friendly with each other, but there is no holding hands, kissing, etc. Our main concern is our kids. We refuse to say we're back together. If we officially get back together, we really want to feel certain that it's for the long term and that we're ready to commit to that. We don't want to give our kids whiplash or do anything to make them feel insecure about our family. We would like to get to that point, but we aren't there yet. I think if my husband had his way, we'd be there. He's ready to say he's there now. He'd love to move back home. But he understands and agrees with my reasoning. I'd love for him to move back home too, based only on emotions. We both have things to work on, both separately and together. I want to be a better spouse this time around. I thought I was being a really great wife, and I was on the surface. I also know that right now I feel so in love and I'm hopped on hormones and pregnancy happiness. I always feel super happy, super positive, and super horny during pregnancy, and I know I have to be careful with trusting anything I feel during this time because it's like I'm on a 24/7 natural high. I think the biggest issue right now is that he's far more let's throw caution to the wind, even though he agrees with all of my reasoning, and I want to be way more careful.